Welcome everybody. In this video, we'll be improving your PK skills by going over all the different attack styles you can incorporate into your PKing, from last tick switching, fakies, to sliding and gliding. Good luck. Now in this first example, we're going to be going over normal hybrid switches, something that you likely already do, but nonetheless this is an attack style and we will go over it. So we start off by giving a mage attack, and naturally because we mage them, they're going to pray mage. And preemptively we go into our range gear and we hit him off prayer. And we do this again, we hit him with range, so he's going to pray range, and we preemptively go into our mage and get yet another off prayer hit. So we continue to try to do this, kind of predicting what he's going to pray and whatnot. But at this point, you can notice that he's only going to really pray mage right now. So we go into our mage and then we go back into our range because we notice we can just bolt rag this guy to death. And now only now he finally changes to range, so we change our attack style once more and we fortunately get the KO right here. For this next example, we're going to be going over an attack style called last tick hitting. And what this is we're going to attempt to wait for the last moment to attack our opponent. Now, when we attack, there's a delay between attacks as such. If we take a look at the ballista, this delay is actually quite long. So before we go into our next attack, we're going to switch our weapon. And we'll do it again. And just between each attack, you're going to do sort of a delay, so they have the least amount of time to react to what you're using. If you pull it out in the beginning, they're going to switch right away. If it's not last tick, it's just much easier for them to pray. Now, here's an example of me getting some nice last tick hits. In this next example, we're going to be going over fakies. Fakies are when you show one attack style, but attack with a different attack style at the last moment, in order to try to get your opponent to change their prayers. This also works as a sort of desensitization, and sometimes if you fake enough, your opponent won't even switch their prayers, kind of expecting you to not fulfill and go through with your switch. In this case, that was exactly what happened. I went into my mage gear and he didn't swap his mage prayer, presumably because I kept faking him out. So now we're just going to continue with our fakies. Right there we go for an actual range hit and we hit with our range. Now we switch to our mage, but we're actually going to hit him with a range. So that was a fakie right there. Right here we go to our mage, but we're not going to hit mage, we're using range. And then once more, because they're desensitized, we go to our mage and we actually hit with mage instead of faking it this time. This next example will be going over an attack style called staff flicking. And what this is after each and every bolt you go for, you're going to want to put on your staff. It's a little weird at first, but once you get the rhythm, it's actually a really good thing to do. Now, as we know, the staff is way more tanky than a crossbow, so this is kind of the main reason we're going to be doing this. Now, if you also take a look as well, each time we throw on the staff, it turns a would-be three-way switch into a two-way switch because we already have our staff equipped. So therefore, our mage becomes a two-way switch when we do want to go into our mage. And what this also does is it kind of ensures that we always have our tank gear on. So let's just go into a little bit of an example. Now in this brief clip, we're going to see a more advanced version of staff flicking, And instead of just as flicking his staff, he's flicking the entirety of his tank gear. So he's as tanky as he can be, as well as doing as much damage as he can do. So good luck trying to do this. It's really fucking click intensive, but it is something you can try to do. This next example we have previously gone over before, and this is death dotting. What you do in death dotting is you go for the attack and immediately right click under them and walk under after each and every attack. So we're going to do that again and we walk under. We go for a mage attack this time, and again, what do? Walk under. And as soon as their freeze becomes undone, we're going to try to freeze them again. And this time, instead of walking under him because he wasn't frozen, or we didn't know for sure if he was going to be frozen, we ran behind the tree. This is called hugging. And as you could see, he was trying to hit this right there, but he was unable to due to his line of sight being blocked by the tree. So a mixture of hugging and DDing will get you ahead in a fight. In this next example, we're going to be going over an attack style pretty similar to Fakies, but not quite. What we're going to want to do is run towards our opponent in the hopes that we get them to switch to melee prayer, because instinctively most people switch to melee prayer when they're getting ran at. And instead of hitting them with a melee attack like they expect, we get them off prayer with a bolt. And because he's a bit desensitized, we go for it again, but this time we actually go for the melee attack, so he didn't even pray that time. And we're going to proceed to continue running at them in hopes that they get to change their prayers and we get an off prayer hit. And again, as we said, they're desensitized, so we went for the special attack without them even praying. And again, we do that the same thing. So not only does it desensitize them, but it does help to get them off prayer. So let's see if we can do it a couple more times. Let's run at them and let's hit them with a different thing. But this time I guess it doesn't work because presumably he's getting a little used to our attack style. To continue with the attack styles, something I want to go over is called sliding and gliding, or skating. Essentially what you're going to want to do is be really sporadic with your movement in the hopes that you get your opponent to misclick. This especially works when you think your opponent is a little below average because they're already struggling with the regular clicks, and it's only going to make it harder to attack a moving target. So let's just look at this and see how good it is against noobs. Now this next attack style should only be used against demons or people that you really know you just can't go toe to toe with. So what you're going to want to do is focus on your prayers while also looking for any KO potential you might have. So right now we see he's relatively low HP, so we still go in for our KO. And unfortunately it didn't work, but we get back to our ragging as well as trying to get our prayers as best as we could, because they're like flicking their entirety of their armor, and it's hard to keep up. So look for opportune moments to go in for the KO, and if not, just keep eating and get your prayers right, because that's the only way you're gonna survive. When it comes to keeping your inventory neat in a fight, there's a couple things you can do. The first thing you can do is ensure that Barbarian Vial smashing is not turned on. So if you've done Barbarian training, I would suggest you turn it off so you don't have gaps in your inventory while you drink your potions, because otherwise they'll get smashed up, and when you go for your special attack, which is usually two-handed, then your inventory begins to get fucked up. The Tome of Fire goes up here instead of down there. So turn off Barbarian smashing. Another thing you're going to want to look out for is when you're going for your double eats, like such, it leaves a little spot up here. What I like to do is I immediately drag a Saradomin brew up here, and because I'm double eating, I usually can go for another brew sip. So click it again since I'm already hovering over it, and then I'll restore. And this leaves no room for a gap, so instead of our Tome of Fire going up here when it would, if there's a gap, it goes down here. Now when it comes to special attacking, say after a good bolt, we can oftentimes mess up our inventory and have to rearrange it back to its original position. This can oftentimes be very hassle-some, but there are a couple tricks to it that I want to teach you. So the reason that our inventory gets messed up after a special attack is because instead of going into our previous attack style, in this case it was range because we had just gotten a good bolt, we go into a different attack style. And when we do that, that is what is the cause of our messed up inventory. So instead of going for a special attack and going into a different attack style, what you're going to want to do is go back into your previous attack style. And what that does is keep your inventory clean, with the trade-off being you're going to be a tad bit predictable. Now, if you do find yourself going for the special attack and accidentally messing up your inventory, what you can do is just backtrack just a bit. So we came from the melee, so we're going to click melee once more. And then since before the melee, we started with range, so we're going to go back to the range. And as you see, our inventory is back to normal. Now let's go over that one more time. We special attack, we mess up our inventory, so let's backtrack this. Let's go back to our special attack, or this time it would be a AGS whack, and then let's go back to what we started with, which was a bolt. And as you can see, our inventory is back to normal. Now it's up to you to decide which of the aforementioned PK tactics will most fit your style. Good luck.